So I want to talk about sprinting and just general sprinting mechanics. So when I come through here, a common theme you see with young athletes and athletes who are just starting to learn how to run is running flat-footed. So a lot of times people come from a maybe more of a distance or jogging, and so you see a lot of this where heel lands first. So as I'm running, I'm landing heel first and I'm kind of rocking and rolling through it. So that's landing flat-footed. The second thing is landing really far out in front of my body. Another thing that comes from jogging. So as I'm jogging, I'm landing like this. Well, that's great, but if you think about it, when I land heel out in front of me, it's almost like I'm decelerating, right? I'm heel in front of me, so all that momentum is coming into the ground in this way. So then I have to use my hamstring to pull my body up under me, and then I have to push out. When we want to sprint, we want to be upright. And this is in the second component of sprinting. This is the upright posture, that max speed. That's called high velocity sprinting mechanics. So we want to be coming here, toe up, striking under us. So the way we can actually think about this, so if I break down sprinting, you can break it into a couple different parts. For starters, you have the start, okay? So any way I start, whether I'm crouch, whether I'm in blocks, whether I'm doing this, you see a lot of long jumpers do the lean back, whatever it is, when we initiate, we have to overcome inertia, okay? So we have to start moving from a static point. So how do we do that? Well, if I try to run forward straight up, it's challenging. And I have to pull. I'm not gonna go very fast if I try to run straight up, right? If my torso is upright. So what do I wanna do? Is I wanna lean forward, and as I push out, I wanna push down and behind me so that when my leg comes straight behind me, there's a straight line from my head to my torso and down into my foot, okay? So I push, and you're creating a pushing motion. So you're here, push, and then as you get faster, you're gonna push, push, push. What's gonna happen is you're gonna gradually start getting your posture more upright and more upright and more upright the faster you go. And what you'll notice with your steps is the stride distance and the frequency will increase. So it'll start off going, and then by the time you get fast, the claps are the same thing as ground contacts, right? So if I push out, you'll notice I start and I'll lean back, and I'm gonna push out, and you'll notice I have a forward lean. So I'm just gonna do a start. All right, so I had a forward lean as I pushed out. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm pushing and I'm trying to strike the ground down under me. Now I'm gonna do this two different ways. The first time I'm gonna do what's called a high heel recovery. So I'm gonna pull my heel up. I'm gonna think about squeezing this, getting this as tight as possible, and pulling it up and pulling it through. So that's the first way I'm gonna do it. The second way I do it is called a low heel recovery. So that is from here, keeping my heel low and close to the ground. Which way do you think is better for starting? Well, the second way would be better. We wanna have low heel recovery because if we think about momentum, we think about big versus small things, imagine you take a sledgehammer, okay? Now you take this big old giant hammer and you go to one of those amusement parks and you take that sledgehammer and you go around and you try to ding the bell, and when you ding the bell, what happens? You win the prize and you're so excited, right? So we want to grab this sledgehammer, swing it all the way around and ding it. Well, what happens is it's heavier. It creates a big range of motion. It's moving slower, but it has more time to build up more force. So by the time it impacts, it's got more mass, and so it creates this big giant ding. Versus if I take a small little hammer and I just walk over, and I can swing that hammer really, really fast. But if I swing a little bitty hammer that's smaller, not as heavy, right? And I move it really, really fast, but it doesn't have enough time to build up enough momentum ding, enough force to ding and win the thing, right? So when I start my approach, when I do my initial steps, I'm gonna drive out and I'm gonna have these longer ranges of motion, but they're gonna have more time to build up more force on the ground. And also by having a low heel recovery, I can get it on the ground quicker. So if you notice right here, I'm gonna push out, stay low heel recovery. I'm not gonna pull it up real high, but then I can pull it through and strike it down on the ground really quickly. So when I start initiate my approach right here, I'm gonna keep it low and I can drive out. So I drive out, I keep my heels low, I'm still dorsiflexed, and reminder, get back in frame, reminder, dorsiflex, toe up, plantar flex, toes down. We always want to be here because we're activating the stretch shortening cycle, right? And go check out a video on Jumpers Junction YouTube channel, at Jumpers Junction. The speed versus power jumper video talks about the stretch shortening cycle, but just to recap, we got these things called tendons, right? We've got muscles, we've got tendons, we've got ligaments, we've got bones, right? The way you can think of it is we have muscles, but they're around the bones, right? Well, what connects the muscles to the bone? These are things called tendons. Tendons connects muscles to bone. Ligaments connect bones to bones, okay? So with these tendons, and this down here is called your Achilles tendon. It's one of your more famous tendons. If you point your toe and then grab that Achilles tendon, and you should try this right now, you'll notice that it is loose, right? That tendon, it's like a rubber band. That tendon is not stretched, right? It's like a loose rubber band. Now, if you point those toes up, do what's called dorsiflex, and you try to grab that tendon, you'll notice that all of a sudden it's tight, right? It's like a rubber band that's been pulled back. It's taut. And that's what we want. When we come through, we want this tight rubber band, right? Because when we come down, boom, it's like that rubber band's already pulled back. So when we make ground contact, you can just let go and it springs forward. But if I have my toes down, my toes pointed, when I make contact, well, this is all loose, right? So I'm gonna have to lower to get it tight and then explode out with the release. That's gonna take twice as much time. So I wanna already have it up, but also that allows me to get the force down under my body and behind me when I'm driving, versus if I point my toes, I'm gonna end up landing in front of me, and then I'm gonna have to do a hamstring pull and then push, and that's gonna take twice as much time. I wanna land already under me and behind me so I can just immediately push. That's less time. The less time you spend on the ground, the faster you'll be able to run. Now, after I already run and I drive out, eventually I'm gonna transition to where I get my body into an upright posture. This is high velocity sprinting. So the way this is gonna look, I'm gonna have high heel recovery. So now when I'm running upright, I'm gonna try to take my heel from behind me, and the moment I leave the ground, called toe off, the moment I leave the ground, I'm trying to get that heel up and down on the ground as quick as possible. But I'm gonna try to get it to where I'm producing as much force as possible. So if I can produce more force over a shorter amount of time, that's what we want. So I'm gonna go from here, and down as quick as possible. Now, if I come down here and I land flat-footed, my heel comes down, that's a greater surface area, right? So it has to be dispersed. It's gonna take more time. I wanna spend less time. I wanna get that foot off the ground as quick as possible. Well, what I can do is I can have my toe up, it makes contact under me and creates a vertical force. So when I'm driving, when I'm in my acceleration phase, I'm pushing down and behind me. When I'm in my high velocity sprinting mechanics, that's that upright, I'm wanting to push more vertically. So it's a vertical force, almost like I'm going here, but there is still a horizontal component that's pushing me forward. And we'll talk about that in a second. So I'm here and I'm striking down, but I don't want to do double the work. And this is a common injury, and it's also a common problem that a lot of athletes have. And this is this: when they're running, their foot comes out, they kind of have this low heel recovery, and then they have a cast out. So they're running and they end up casting their foot out here. So our hamstrings are designed to stop our foot our lower leg from casting out in front of us. Our hamstring is eccentric focus, okay? So it comes out, it stops it from going out here. So your hamstring is active. When I'm going forward, it's actually tightening to make sure this doesn't keep going. So it's pulling this back because it's such an abrupt movement forward. So my hamstring is actually activating so that I don't kick my heel way out in front of me. But if I do, so my hamstring has just done work, if I have to pull it down like this, well, guess what? That's a secondary movement. So it's like doing twice as much work. If I just go from this position here and down, then I'm only doing it once. I'm really only doing this motion, and then it's a pushing motion from my quads, from my glutes. And I can activate these big giant muscles, and I'm not using my hamstrings twice. So it's less injury, you're not using as much, and therefore you're not gonna do the common injury risk of hamstring injuries, which I've been a victim of, and many athletes have been a victim of. So high velocity sprinting mechanics, we're upright, we're pulling here, down. We wanna pull this through because this motion, remember small hammer can move twice as fast. So I can get it from here, here, and down a lot faster than here. So if I pull here, that's gonna take twice as much time going here versus here. All right, so just look now, I'm gonna do a little dribble or trot. I'm just gonna drive doing high heel recovery. So you notice how I'm going from here, up, down. Now I'm gonna do this two ways. The first way I'm gonna do it is I'm gonna land and I'm gonna let my heels collapse to the ground. So I'm gonna land flat-footed, okay? Watch the first way I do it. If you're landing with your heel, it's kind of like you can't really produce any force with it. So what I wanna do is we can do this little drill right here where I'm gonna take my foot, I'm gonna get into this dorsiflex position. I'm gonna kind of flex this muscle out here, the front of your leg, okay? So that I really feel like all this is tight, and then I just wanna move my leg around. Just move it, and just keep it dorsiflexed. Just move it around and just keep it dorsiflexed and get used to actually moving where it's dorsiflexed. Because if I can be comfortable and confident with my body's position in space, proprioception, if I can be confident in this, then I can be confident that when I pull down, I'm not gonna point my toes and end up dragging and scraping the ground in front of me. I can keep it up and make contact under me, and if I can do some different types of work to strengthen all these tendons, then I can land and have enough elastic energy stored up to where I don't have to have my heel come down and push off. So now I do it a second way, and notice that my heels will not touch the ground. Okay, so now I'm coming through, and it's so easy for me to just pop off. I feel like you've heard the expression like, oh, he runs like a gazelle. They just boing, 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 right? That's the elastic component that we want. It's just that spring moving through. All right, and now we're gonna tie that in with here, we're driving, upright, high velocity sprinting mechanics. We're here, we're striking down and applying a vertical force. It's gonna propel us forward. And now I'm gonna do it one more time, and I'm gonna try to be bouncy. Okay, so watch the first one where I land and I'm just gonna roll through. I don't want to roll through. This is called running flat. You ever seen someone run like this? I'll run again. So ever seen someone run flat like this? So I'm kind of have my hips rotated. I get back into frame. So I got my hips and they're kind of like I'm sticking my tail out, and I'm kind of running like this, and I'm always staying low. What I want is I want to, instead of having my ribs kind of stick out, I want to lock that core in. I want to turn those hips neutral. I don't want to over rotate them, but I want them neutral to where I can fire from my glutes, and I'm here and I can come straight down and create a switching motion. Boom, boom, boom. Like a kind of like a gazelle, right? It's bouncing. So now when I do it, I'm gonna do it again, but now I'm gonna try to be a lot more bouncy. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm locking those feet. I'm locking those feet in that dorsiflex position. Boom, 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 boom. It's real easy for me to just have this natural, fluid running style. And something you can think of, I have two things I like to think about. The first is a squish the grape. Squish the grape drill. Foot behind me, I'm imagining a grape is right here. And I'm gonna try to squeeze my foot, and it's so hard that I like squish a grape. Right, so the faster I can pull it through, I can take a grape, bah! And I'm gonna squeeze it where it pops the grape. Or you can think of it as like a calf smasher. I'm here, and I'm trying to take my calf and smash it into my hamstring. Boom. I don't want to go here. I'm not trying to come out here, and I don't want to do this here. If I'm running and I have a lot of rear side mechanics, which means my foot comes up here, then for it to get out in front of you, what do you have to do? You have to go down and around. So I'm going boom, boom, boom. It's twice as much work, right? I just want to pull through, step down. Pull through, step down. That's the fastest, and it can get me going the fastest. I feel like call them calf smashers. And so a drill I like to do in warm-ups to help with that is 3 things. First, we do butt kicks, then we do high knees, and then we do calf smashers. So on all of them, I'm trying to squish the grape. I'm doing it in different positions. The first is the butt kick. Still squishing the grape, but notice that my quad is never coming out in front of me. The second is the high knee. I'm still gonna squish the grape, but I'm gonna do it up here. Okay? The third is the in-between. It's neutral. So I'm just gonna bring here. So notice that my knee is in front of my hips and my heel is behind. So calf smashers is right in between. So I'm not butt kick, I'm not high knees, I'm right in between. All right, and that helps ingrain the concept of just squeezing and getting it down. Squeeze and get down. So when you're running, you can just squeeze and get down. Okay, and each athlete, and you look at some pro athletes around history, they've all got a different, unique running style. Style is important. Look at Michael Johnson versus Carl Lewis. Look at Usain Bolt versus Coleman. All these sprinters, they've got a style that's unique to them and how they've learned. There's no correct way, but there are certain things that can help improve you. So I'll show you a little acceleration where I'll start with a forward lean, I'll transition upright into a high velocity spring mechanics. Hopefully this is in camera. I really hope so. So I'm gonna lean forward and slowly transition. So I'm gonna lean forward and then get upright. So a little bit of sprinting mechanics to you to have in your mind when you go out there and run. If you like this, I've got a whole series on how to run faster, jump further, jump higher on my YouTube channel and on my website. Go check that out. And as always, catch you next time.